Welcome back to Meaningful Conversations live with Beata. And I'm so excited to have you every Tuesday at noon. I'm your host, like I said, Beata, B-E-A-T-A, those who doesn't know me. And I would love to introduce you today to wonderful, amazing, badass, I call her badass angel woman, Heather Knight. Heather she's out of this world. She is changing this world in so many ways that I probably would not be able to even tell you how. So Heather, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And please tell us who you are and how do you change and impact. Oh, are we still? Okay. I don't know if you heard my question. I asked. Oh, I'm sorry. So can you please introduce yourself, who you are and how do you impact? How do you change this world?
Yeah, so my name is Heather Knight. I am the founder of Surviving to Thriving. Surviving to Thriving is a nonprofit dedicated to helping women of domestic violence. We do that through lifestyle learning courses, women's self-defense, and sustainable housing. The lifestyle learning courses that we do are things all the way from budgeting and financial things to trade schools and learning actionable skills to go and be in the workforce. And not only, a lot of places do resume building and things like that, but if you don't have anything to put on your resume, then it doesn't really help to build your resume. So we go and do those types of things. And then the women's self-defense is I am a nationally certified self-defense instructor, and it's a trauma-based program. So we really help the women that have already been through this horrible situation, whether it's sexual assault or domestic violence situation. We help them learn how to fight back, because a lot of times if you're put in that situation a second time, you freeze because you flash back to what has happened previously. So
Heather, before you go further, I want to stop you because there are so many questions that I have related to what you do. And first of all, your podcast and your nonprofit, that is, oh my gosh, amazing. Surviving to Thriving. Where does this passion for spreading awareness about domestic violence, and where is this surviving to thriving? How does it connect? You were a law enforcement officer. Woohoo! Thank you very much. So does it come from your experience, from work, from what you saw? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's a little twofold. So the first part is, yes, I was a police officer for 4 years, and the number one call that we get behind alarm calls is domestic violence calls. And I worked it wasn't a small town, but it was a smaller city. It wasn't like Atlanta or Minneapolis or these big New York City. It wasn't where you're just a number on the street. Like your community knows their police officers, but it was still big enough where we had lots of exciting things happen, and there were things, it was fun. But the huge thing was domestic violence calls, and knowing that it was a decent sized city, but we still got called to the same houses over and over and over again. It was a population of 60,000, and yet I've only seen 100, people from domestic violence calls. And so it really, tugged at me, and, what this question of why are we constantly here? And it's really hard to have that question, because when you talk to somebody, asking them why they're not leaving can be very shameful to the victim of, this is your fault. You're in this area, you're in this position. So why don't you just leave, when it's not that simple? And because it's not that simple, I wanted to really dive in deep and know the real reasons as to why women don't leave, and men too. And we found that a lot of it is people are not ready, that's your journey. There's zero judgment. We just want to be a resource that's there when you are ready. But then beyond that, if you are ready, why are you not leaving? And it's, financial reasons, kids, pets can be a reason. So it was all of that just kind of culminating, and being able to sit down with those women and actually understand that. And then we built Surviving to Thriving. I think that, I know that domestic violence plays a huge role in my life, and why that particular thing tugs at my heartstrings versus a lot of the other messed up things in this world is, I was sexually assaulted as a teenager. And then I was also in a domestic violence relationship as a high schooler. And that relationship was not, it wasn't physical ever. It was very just emotional and psychological, but it was very back and forth. And I think that stems from, we don't teach our youth how to be in relationships, right? We tell them all the time, you're too young to be in love. You're too young to do this. You're too young to do that. When in reality, it doesn't matter how old they are or whatnot. They're going to do what they're going to do. Everybody had their high school sweetheart, right? Your grandparents were probably high school sweethearts, but yet our generation now is too young to be in love at 16, 17 years old. So, there's that huge double standard, and we've stopped teaching kids healthy relationship habits. And so
I love, and I'm sorry to disturb you, but I love what you said on one of your interviews, that every healthy relationship starts at home. That is huge. So parents, caregivers, teachers, coaches, remember, that is huge. When I was reading that and listening, and it's like, oh my gosh, that is so true. Without healthy relationship at home, you don't have these foundations. And I so admire you for what you do based on your own story, your own experience. And this actually leads me to awesome question. By the way, thank you, Alfonso. Alfonso is saying hi. Thank you so much for being with us. And anyone who I can't see your comments, please leave them. And if you have any question to Heather, is the best opportunity to ask it live. So my question is, and it's so amazing because I was getting ready for interview with you and I was listening and gathering this great information and getting to know what you do. And there is a situation, and actually it was last evening, I was in contact with one parent, and the parent, this is a question actually from the parent. He has a young adult, and I love that you pay so much attention and put so much awareness into young adults. His son is about 20, and he was in a relationship with, of course, a lady for so very early. I think they started like 17 or 16. It's a couple of years, so it's a long and deep relationship. And he just found out that it was not that healthy. So young adults, same as adults, they are able to hide it. Yes, like he said, I knew that something is not made perfect, but I didn't know that that person was abusive. And I want, first of all, ask you, well, when we think about abuse, we always think about physical, but it's not necessarily physical. Domestic violence also is not only physical. So my first question is, can you refer and make us more aware what kind of abuse is out there except physical? And second, this is the parent question, how he as a parent can support this young adult or any other probably person, how we can support young adults when, you know, as a parent, there is this barrier because the kid is like, of course, you tell me that because you love me, you are my parent, and yeah, you just care, but I'm not sure. I have to make my own decision. So how to support these young adults and help them to get out of that kind of relationships?
Definitely. So the first part of your question of the types of abuse, there, other than physical, there's mental, emotional, psychological, and sexual. And you can dive into those and create more, but those are like the four main huge topics. So mental and emotional and psychological really go hand in hand. A lot of times there's, you know, all of these different things. And, you know, with psychological, then, you know, comes financial abuse, because financial abuse isn't about controlling the money. It's about control, which then goes back into psychological. So that the emotional and the mental abuse is more of like that, just talking down to somebody and berating them and telling them they're not worth anything, and just doing, you know, just being nasty in their words. And then the psychological abuse is really, you know, manipulating that person into thinking that they're the problem in the relationship. Not just that, you know, like making them feel crap about themselves, but really making them think that like, oh, maybe I was wrong in that situation, or maybe I was, you know, doing something bad, or you know, doing all of these things, when in reality, it's just a manipulation tactic. You know, so that's a huge part of all of that. And that is a lot more common than physical abuse. As for the question that the parent had, it's the same for whether they're 20 or 40. You cannot force somebody to leave a relationship. You just can't. And I've had this conversation with, you know, a lot of people, is like, hey, my friend's in this relationship. I need you to get him out, or I need you to get her out. And I talk to the person and they're like, I don't want to leave. Like, I'm good where I'm at. You know, like, they're in that moment, and I can't force you to leave, and neither can, you know, your loved ones. What I would say for the loved ones and, you know, the support system is just continue to be that support system. Don't make them feel guilty about being in that relationship. You know, you can try to point different things out of like, hey, you know, when they said this and this to you, it made me feel like this. I don't know how you feel about it, and it's okay for you to have your own feelings about it, but I just wanted to let you know this is how I felt about it. And just kind of be that support system and be there and be understanding about everything that is going on. But just know that if they're not ready to go, they're not going to. Now, if their life is in danger, that's a whole other conversation.
Absolutely.
You know, if they call you and their life is right, that's a 911 call. But if it's a psychological and an emotional type of abusive relationship, you're going to have to wait it out and know that when they're ready to go, they will look back and they will be so thankful to you that you didn't ever leave their side, and that you were continually there in supporting them. And then now you're also there supporting them on the back end.
I love what you just said. So thank you so much. I hope everyone can hear it. You always need to be of support for your kids. It doesn't need to be a kid, but others, young adults. And I guess with adults it's the same. You cannot leave anyone. They have to feel it and be ready when they get, I from my own experience and people that I work with, it's always they reach the point, enough is enough. But sometimes it's a really rock bottom, and don't wait for that. But I have to also just related to what we were talking about this young man. I want to thank you, because you know what I did? I was like, okay, he is not really willing to listen to you. He was offered talk to me, but I'm another adult. So I did a screenshot from your website, it's the signs of abusive relationship. And I like highlighted and like, is any of that related to you? And so the parents send it, and then he reached back, the son said all of it. I was like, oh my gosh. So I sent him to your website and to get aware where he is, because I think it's what you are talking about. Make people aware, and then hopefully they will make healthy decisions for themselves.
Exactly.
So,
And to that point is awareness. Many people don't know what emotional abuse is. They don't know that the way that somebody's talking to you is not okay.
yes.
It's not normal. It's not a healthy relationship. And they compartmentalize it as, well, they're not hitting me, so it's not that bad.
Yes.
And so a lot of it is just education and teaching people. So I'm really glad that you were able to do that for him.
Absolutely. And if you can give us a couple examples, because one of them was mental abuse, like she was constantly putting him down, taking away his self-confidence, his self-esteem, separating from friends and family. So what else that people can just think, oh my gosh, it's happening to me?
Yeah. So a lot of it. So there's this thing called gaslighting, and gaslighting is constantly saying that something is your fault, and telling, putting you down and telling you that, you're the reason that things are happening. An example would be, say you didn't do the dishes after dinner, and that could be a trigger for the abuser, and that just sets them off. And it's like, well, you ruined dinner because now I have to go and clean up, and I have to go do this, and now I can't do what I want to do. When in reality, if you cook, he should probably clean, and if he cooks, you should probably
Right.
so there's that give and take. And then, even if that's not the case in your house, because, sometimes if you cook, you clean too. But the fact that somebody has escalated it and made it all about you because the dishes weren't done immediately after dinner can be it can be a huge red flag. And then again, just the constant control, making it so that when you want to go do something with your friends, they're like, no, I want to go do this. And they slowly get you away from your friend in a way that you don't really realize that it's happening, right? Because you think like, oh, I'm just not hanging out with them anymore. But then it turns into, I don't really like that person. You should stop talking to them. And that happens over and over and over again. And eventually, the only person that you're talking to is your mom, because your mom is like, I know what's happening and I'm not going to stop talking to you. And you're only doing things with him or with his family, and I say his, but I want everybody to know domestic.
Right. It's both ways. And it's not drastic. Usually it's like small steps, like this small movements. No, we won't go there. No, let's stay home, or whatever you prepare a birthday party. It's like, no, let's spend it just me and you. So it can be different for everyone, but oh my gosh, thank you so much for bringing that awareness to life, because we all need it. And I'm sure, and it's also what I learned from your website, is saying 1 in 4 women will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. This is like, what? Like, oh my gosh. So every other woman that I know probably is experiencing it. And it's not only about women, because I know personally a couple men.
It's about 1 in every 9 men.
Right.
So high statistic.
So how would you encourage these people that they see the signs, they kind of know, and they are not ready? How would you encourage them to do whatever, this one step towards freeing themselves from that prison, because it's prison in the long time.
Yeah. I am a huge person for journaling. And I think journaling is such a healthy way to figure out what you want. And, you know, if you start looking at the signs and you start realizing like, oh, okay, that happens, then you should probably look at, are you truly happy? Does the thought of, man, I really don't want to be in this relationship come through your head a lot? If it is, then it's probably a sign that you don't want to be, that you're not happy, that you don't want to be in that relationship. And then also through that journaling of, what is your ideal relationship? What is your ideal life? What is your ideal self, right? Because all of this starts with self-love. And, you know, if you are allowing yourself to be put through that, then it's you really have to look into yourself and say, okay, why am I allowing this? And it could stem back from a lot, 99% of the reason why you either are an abuser or attract abusers, because a lot of times it's the person. Like, I've had, you know, a lot of survivors come and like, I have been in these relationships over and over and over again, and I can't seem to get out of them. I can't seem to find a guy that's not like this. And a lot of it stems from childhood trauma, right? Either your parents were abusive towards each other, your grandparents. It's usually a 3-generation cycle. So if your grandparents were abusive to each other, your parents will be abusive to each other, and then you will end up either in an abusive relationship or be an abuser. But your kids usually break the cycle, but we're trying to get it to where you break the cycle. And so I lost my train of thought there. I'm sorry.
No, that's awesome, because actually my next question relates to what you just said, this childhood. And when your parents were abusive, that is the pattern usually. But let's say, because it's another stuff that I experience and see or around me, that sometimes there is a couple, mom and dad, let's say stepdad or whatever, or just couple, they are not married, and there are a kid from one or the other marriage, and there is no physical abuse. But I know that there is this gaslighting or mental abuse just towards one of the significant others, not towards the kids. But I believe it's not, it has huge impact on the kids. Is that true?
Yes. You actually, on one of my episodes, this woman talked about how she, you know, her dad was very abusive, never physical, but just very abusive towards her mom. And, you know, was very, every time they, something happened, they just, her dad would blow up, right? And just be, and just get mad at every little thing. And so she was over at a friend's house, and, the mom left the cupboard door open, and the dad stood up and hit his head on it. And she like sat there and she like winced because she thought the dad was going to blow up, because she thought that was normal. And the dad was just like, oh, wow, that hurt. Like, thanks for that. You know, just kind of like joked about it. And the mom was, I'm so sorry, and like gave him a hug and kissed him on the head. And she's like, what is this? Like, this is not normal. Wow. But then she realized, like, no, my parents aren't normal. This, like, what I'm seeing at my friend's house is normal. And she was 16, 17 years old when this happened. And so for 17 years, she just thought that that's how parents interacted. That was normal. So it 100% has a impact on your kids. Even if you're not abusive towards them, if the abuse is in the home, it definitely affects them. And that's what I mean by, you know, getting into, you know, if you have abuse in the home, that cycle of childhood trauma. And it's, I use the example because it's kind of silly, but it helps.
I love it.
But even if you're sitting there cooking dinner, and your 3-year-old kid comes up to you and they're like, "Mommy, I want to play," and you're like, "I can't, I'm cooking dinner." That upsets that kid, right? That's a trauma on for that child right then and there. It's not like you're like, "I'm cooking so that you have food. I'm loving you. I'm nourishing
right.
you." So it's not abuse, but it's trauma for that child. Now that's not going to affect them in relationships,
right?
But it's still a trauma. So if you think about how that little bit of like, "Hey, I'm cooking, I can't play with you right now," is traumatizing for a 3-year-old, imagine escalating that to everything else that's happening in the home.
Wow, this is so awesome. Thank you so much for making us aware about what is impacting our lives. And before I will end, is there any advice from you for anyone who's listening right now? Because also I know that you talk about escape plan, how this person, like he knows there are signs like, I know, but I feel so powerless to just stand up for myself. So what is the escape plan? How they can slowly get out of it?
Yeah. So the first steps are to, if you have, and these escape plans are for people who are not in volatile situations where every little thing could possibly put your life in danger. So I just want to throw that disclaimer out there. If you do not feel safe doing any of these things, please do not attempt them. If your life is in that much danger, please get to, a local police department or somewhere where you can be safe. Don't risk trying to do these things if your life is in danger. But for those that are feel fairly safe doing these things and think they can get out, the first step is to get all of your personal documents in order: passports, birth certificates, social security cards, everything and anything that you would need to restart your life. Make sure that those are in a waterproof bag. You Ziploc them and put them in a suitcase. And that goes for your kids too. If you're taking your kids with you, get your kids' birth certificates, social security cards, all of that, and put them in this plastic bag. And then, have that stored away. Have a bag with socks and underwear and bras for all of that. Those are like the number one things that people forget. And so, you get to your friend's house, the shelter or anything, and you're like, well, I guess I'm going to be wearing these underwear for the next however many weeks, right? So make sure that you remember those, and some clothes. And a toothbrush that's like an old toothbrush, not the one that you use, that's there if you've got an extra one lying around, and those sorts of things. And put them in a bag and hide that bag in a closet until you're ready to go, somewhere where they're not going to find it. Do the same thing for your kids, and hide that. And then start storing money away. If they control the money and they give you like, here's $100 to go get some groceries, and take $10 and put it in your pocket every single time, and do that, and store some money away, or go do an ATM withdrawal. And if they question it, like, oh, I had to go get this, and this, the kids needed a new backpack or something,
right?
And just start saving that money away. And you really don't need that much. $100, $200, and have that stored away. And then text a trusted friend or relative or anybody and let them know your escape plan, and walk them through it, because you can't do it alone. You have to have somebody that you can trust, that knows where you're going, that knows all of these things. But make sure that you really do trust them, and that they're not going to go and tell your abuser what you're doing. And so those are like the 3 main steps that we provide.
I love it. Thank you so much. And also, it's what your nonprofit do, yes, support that kind of people. So I have it right there on the screen. So people, please go and find out. But what are the other ways that people can reach out to you directly, maybe, or through website is right there. But what is the best way to reach out and ask questions? Maybe it's just about getting some more knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, the website, twothriving.org. And then I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn as Two Thriving ATL.
To Thriving ATL. We will also drop it under the video. And before we end, I have Garlene, which is my huge supporter. Amber was there also. I don't know if she's still with us. She's saying, to Powerhouse people, thank you so much, Amber. Garlene, she said, I came out of a toxic relationship also, and I'm happy to say that it's relatively easier said than done. Of course, it's for me easy to manage as being a psychologist. It can be a little more easier to control our thoughts. Yes, thank you so much, Garlene, for sharing that. And that is so true what you said about managing thoughts, because also I think it was you or your husband, because you are one also big powerhouse helping and supporting others, said you don't let them to take your thinking away. That is so powerful, I believe, because it all starts with your thinking. It starts how you treat yourself, how you set boundaries, standards, and basically what you allow this other person to tell who you are, to say, or even the physical act. I would fight back. I would punch back. That's why I love what you do. Self-defense. Yes, this badass lady, she is also teaching self-defense. So if you are in Atlanta area, yes, it's where you are located, you can contact and learn how to be a badass in your own life. So thank you so very much for being here with us today. And I'm so thankful for what you and your husband together created, and where you take it and how you spread the awareness, so we are all more safe in our own houses.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you. And everyone listening, please like, share. You know, this is very important episode. It's happening. 1 out of 4 women is experiencing domestic violence. And you said 1 of 10 gentlemen?
It's about 1 in 9.
Yeah. Oh, 1 in 9. So this is very important to spread this message around, so people know where to go, how to reach out for help, and that they are not alone, because often when we are in these relationships or situation, we think that there is no way out. There is a way out, and Heather is there for you to help you. So again, reach out to her, like, share, talk about what she is doing, reach out to me. I can connect you directly as well. And thank you for supporting me today. Thank you for being here. Love you. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.